Welcome to the Arithmetic Zone, and here we have our first math video that's not on physics in a pretty long time. We're going to do a basic operation review, because let's face it, some of you guys forgot how to do long division. So, you all know how to add two numbers, right? This is just a review anyway. 100 plus 50, obviously 150, but let's do it the long way, where we line up the two numbers by the places. So, we have 100 plus 50. Notice how the ones places lines up and then the tens places line up with each other. So finally we add the individual places together. 0 and 0, 0. 0 plus 5 is 5, and then 1 just goes down because at the end of the day, this is just, you could just say this is 0, 50, and your final answer is 150. Now as for number 2, a little more complicated. We have 78.53 plus 12.78. Again, we want to line up each places together, including the decimals places. So the tenths places lines up, and then the hundredths places also line up. So now you want to add up the numbers. So 3 plus 8 is 11, but we can't fit that in one spot. So we have to carry the 1, as they say. Carry the 1 right here. 5 plus 7 is 12. Plus 1 right here is 13. And again, we have to carry another 1. Now this decimal point just falls below right here. Got to carry another 1. 8 plus 2 is 10. 10 plus 1 is 11. Carry another 1. 7 plus 1 is 8. Plus 1 is 9. So our final answer is 91.31. Now 3 is a little more complicated. Not really though. As you can see, one of these numbers has 2 decimal places. The other number only has 1. You want to line it up so that the places line up. So in that case, it's going to look like this. You want to have the decimal places line up with each other. So this is the same as 12.50. So 2 plus 0 is just 2. It's not 10 or greater, so we don't have to carry 1. 8 plus 5 is 13. We do have to carry the 1 here. And then 3 plus 2 is 5. Plus 1 is 6. And then this 1 just falls below for our final answer of 16.32. So this should all seem familiar to you guys. After all, this is just a review. Now we're going to do some basic subtraction. So same concept as addition. We want to line up the places together. So 100 minus 50, we want to line it up. Then we're going to subtract each individual place. So 0 minus 0 is just 0. Now, here's where we have to be careful. 0 minus 5 would result in negative 5. But we can treat this 0 as a 10. So 10 minus 5 becomes 5. And when we treat this as a 10, we have to reduce this number by 1. So this just turns into 0. Hence, our final answer is 50. Now we have number 2, 78.53 minus 12.78. That should be a 7. So 3 minus 8, it is going to be a negative number, but if we say it's 13 minus 8, then we get 5. So we have to reduce this number by 1. So it becomes 4 minus 7. Again, we have to treat this as 14 minus 7, which results in 7. Bring this decimal point down and reduce this number by 1 again. So now we have 7 minus 2. That's just 5. We don't have to reduce the next place because we didn't have to turn this into 17. So we just do 7 minus 1 and then 6. So our final answer is 65.75. So now number 3, 12.5 minus 3.82. Again, you want to line up the places together. Use the decimal point as your benchmark. So this is just 12.50. And again, 0 minus 2, we have to treat this as 10. So 10 minus 2 is 8. Got to reduce this by 1. Got to treat this as 14 minus 8, which is 6. Got to reduce this by 1. Treat this as 11 minus 3, which is 8, and we got to reduce this number by 1. So that's just 0. So the final answer is 8.68. You may notice for number 4, we have 3.82 minus 12.5. We're actually subtracting a larger number from the smaller number. So when you see that, what you absolutely cannot do is you cannot just line them up as we did earlier like this, because you're going to get the wrong answer. You cannot do this. Like, don't try it. Instead, you have to rewrite that whole expression so that we're actually going to subtract the smaller number from the larger number, and then we plug in or tack on the negative sign at the end. So we're going to rewrite it as 12.5 minus 3.82, which, if you notice, we already did this for number 3, so we already know the answer is 8.68. But then we got to add the negative sign because we're subtracting the larger number from the smaller number. If you switch the order in which two numbers are being subtracted, then the answers are just going to be opposites of each other. So we got the positive version when we subtracted 12.5 minus 3.82. Here we got the negative version when we subtracted 3.82. And just to show you other possibilities when you have negative numbers in addition and subtraction, 12.5 plus negative 3.82 is the same as 12.5 minus 3.82. I apologize for how that 5 looks. Negative 12.5 plus negative 3.82 is the same as negative 12.5 minus 3.82, in which that's the same as 12.5 plus 3.82, and then negating the answer at the end. Negative 12.5 plus 3.82 is the same as 3.82 minus 12.5, which we just found earlier. Now we're going to get into multiplication review. So again, we're going to have the same concept where we line up the places with each other. 30 times 5. And then what you want to do for multiplication is you want to, taking the number that's on the bottom, you want to multiply each individual place starting from the ones place. So 0 times 5 is just 0. And then you want to do 3 times 5, which is 15. So our answer is just 150. 300 times 25 is a little more complicated. Again, you want to multiply the number on the bottom with each individual place, but start with the ones place. So we're going to start with the 5. 0 times 5 is 0. 0 times 5 is, again, 0. And 3 times 5 is 15. Now we're going to move on to the tens place of the second number, which is 2. But before you do that, add a 0 for the next place. So 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 0 again is 0. And then 3 times 2 is 6. And finally, you add up these two numbers you find. So 0, 0, 5, 7. That's our final answer, 7,500. Number 3, we add decimals to the mix, 28.5 times 3.5. And when you have decimals, you want to ignore them for a second and just multiply it as if it's a standard multiplication problem. So 5 times 5 is 25. Now, we got 25, and the 20 in that case is important. We have to carry the 2 to the next place. So 5 times 8 is 40, plus 2 is 42, and now we have to carry the 4. So 2 times 5 is 10, plus 4 is 14. Again, we're going to ignore the decimal points for now. Add a 0 for the next place, and then 3 times 5 is 15. So let me just get rid of these so we don't get confused. We have to carry the 1. So 3 times 5 was 15. 8 times 3 is 24. Plus 1 is 25. You gotta carry that 2. And then 3 times 2 is 6. Plus 2 is 8. So finally, you want to add these two numbers up. 5 plus 0 is 5. 2 plus 5 is 7. 4 plus 5 is 9. 1 plus 8 is 9. We're not done though. We have decimal points, and the trick is for every decimal value you see, you want to count the places from the right side for both numbers. So you see from here, there's one place. Starting from the right, we count one place to get to the decimal point. And then right here, we count another place to get to the decimal point. So that's a total of 2 places. So in our final answer, we're going to count 2 places from the right side and then put our decimal point right there for our final answer of 99.75. Now, number 4 is so crazy that I had to clear the whole screen just to have enough space to make it coherent. So I'm actually going to write the 6.823 first, simply because it'll make my calculations more simple. Again, I want to line them up with the decimal point, and so I want to add a 0 here. Now, I want to start from the last place in the second number. 0 times any of these numbers is just going to result in 0, so I can just skip that whole place. Now moving on to this 2, got to add a 0 before I do anything. 2 times 3 is going to be 6. 2 times 2 is going to be 4. 8 times 2 is 16, and I got to carry the 1. So 6 times 2 is 12, plus 1 is 13. Now, moving on to the 7, this is where things get real. I want to add, this time, I'm going to add 2 zeros. Moving on to the next place. 7 times 3 is 21. I got to carry that 2. So 7 times 2 is going to be 14, plus the 2 is 16. I still have to carry the 1. So I'm going to have 8 times 7 is 56, plus 1. It's going to be 57. Now I got to carry the 5. And I'm also going to get rid of this 1 just so you don't get confused. So now I got to carry the 5. So 6 times 7 is going to be 42, plus 5 is 47. Let me just erase all these notations. Alright, next place is going to be the 4. This time I'm going to add 3 zeros. It just keeps increasing in quantity. So 4 times 3 is 12. Got to carry the 1. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. We don't have to carry anything there because it's less than 10. Now 4 times 8 is 32. Got to carry the 3. So 6 times 4 is 24, plus 3, 27. So we finally found all these numbers, and now we got to sum everything up. All these zeros just turns into 0. We have 6 plus 2 zeros, just 6. 4 plus 1 plus 0, it's going to be 5. 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 2 is 14, so we actually have to carry a 1. 3 plus 7 is 10, plus 9 is 19, plus 1 is 20, so I got to carry the 2. 1 plus 7 is 8, plus 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12, got to carry the 1. 4 plus 7 is 11, plus 1 is 2, and I still have to carry an additional 1 for this final place right here. So we got our numerical answer right here, but remember we have decimal values, and again we have to count the number of places the last number is from the decimal point. So right here, count 3 places, 1, 2, 3. Now here you want to be careful. You want to start from the last number, and the 0 doesn't actually count, because I could theoretically add multiple zeros to this, and it's going to be and then it would just technically shift the decimal point. So I want to start from the most recent value that's like not a 0. So right here, count 2 places. So we counted 3 places here, 2 places. That's a total of 5 places. So starting from the right, which I should probably specify is going to be right here, because again you could add in as many zeros as you want. I want to count 5 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so what we get is 32.20456. But are we done? No. Remember this negative sign I just conveniently forgot? Well, I forgot about it because the nice thing about multiplication is that if you multiply any 2 numbers and one of those is negative, it's going to be the same value as if they were both positive, but it's going to be negated. So I can just add the negative sign right here. Remember, if you multiply 2 numbers that are negative, it's positive. Multiply 1 number that's positive, 1 number that's negative, it's going to be negative. And multiply 2 positive numbers, it's positive. And the same applies for division, which we're going to cover next. Now on division, and this might be what you were waiting for. So let's get with it. So number 1, 30 divided by 5. It's obviously 6, but let's set it up the long division way so we get used to it. So 30 divided by 5, set it up like that. Now 5 can't go into 3, but 5 can go into 30. It goes in there 6 times, so we take 6 times 5, and we get 30, and we want to subtract it from the quotient, and we get a remainder of 0, so we know that the final answer is 6. Number 2, 300 divided by 25. For long division is definitely more useful here. So 25 can't go into 3, but it can definitely go into 30. It goes into 31, so we write 1 right there because it can't go into 3, so we have to write it starting from this value. 1 times 25 is just 25, and we subtract 30 minus 25 to get 5. Now 25 can't go into 5, so we have to bring this 0 down. And 25 can go into 50 2 times. 2 times 25 is 50, so we get no remainder, and our final answer is 12. This may seem familiar to you. Now, number 3, we have a decimal. 28.5 divided by 3. And if only the quotient has a decimal, then it's not too bad. We'll see what happens. So 3 can't go into 2, but it does go into 28. It goes in there 9 times. 9 times 3 is 27. So 28 minus 27 is 1. 3 can't go into 1. But now we're going to bring this 5 down. And now we're also going to add this decimal point. We're going to put it up here so it lines up. 3 can go into 15 5 times. So 5 times 3 is 15. We get no remainder, and our answer is 9.5. So pretty simple if the decimal's only in the quotient. But what if it's both in the quotient and divisor? Well, the first thing you need to realize is it's not very optimal to divide when you have a decimal in the divisor. And in fact, what you want to do is you want to balance this whole fraction out, because that's what division really is. You want to balance it so that there's no longer a decimal in the divisor. So what we can do is multiply 10 on both sides, so that, because if you multiply the same number to both the numerator and denominator, it's still going to be the same number at the end. So I can multiply 10 to both sides and get negative 47.2 divided by negative 68.23, and I can keep on going until there's no longer a decimal in the divisor. So negative 472 divided by negative 682.3, and then finally negative 4,720 divided by negative 6,823. You might notice we have negative signs, but because both numbers are negative, they cancel out, so our answer is going to be positive. So let me just clear everything and rewrite what we found right here. So 4,720 divided by 6,823. You might notice, like, immediately, okay, that's supposed to be 3, that we have a smaller number divided by a larger number. So we actually can't fit this whole number into here. So we're just going to start off with 0 and a point, and we can actually keep on going and add more zeros like that. So how many times does 6,823 go into 47,200? Well, I'm thinking 6, because you have 6,000 times 6, that's like 36,000. So, but we got to verify that. So we want to multiply 6,823 by 6, and this is going to be pretty annoying. So 3 times 6 is 18, carry the 1. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 1 is 13, carry another 1. 8 times 6 is 48, plus 1 is 49, carry the 4. 6 times 6 is 36, plus 4 is 40. And if we write this number right here, you can see that it actually does work out. Now we have to subtract this giant number. So 10 minus 8 is 2. This turns into a 9. And it was already 0, so we gotta reduce the next one anyway. 9 minus 3 is 6. So, like I said earlier, we have to reduce this one. 1 minus 9, treat it as 11 minus 9 is 2. Reduce this one. 6 minus 0 is 6, and 4 minus 4 is just 0. And again, we have to bring that 0 down, and we have to see the next number that fits. So I'm thinking 9, and this time I'm not going to show it out just to save time. But if you were to multiply 9 by this number, you would get 61,407. And you can actually just keep on going with this. Like, it's pretty clear that this is not going to result in a rational number. It's going to result in this ugly fraction. So you would just have to keep on adding zeros. Either that or find the remainder. So, but I'm just going to leave it off the funny number, 0.69 ... as our final answer. And finally, I want to go over fractions, because this can be another difficult topic to remember without a calculator. When you add two fractions, you got to make sure they have a common denominator. So in this case, 3 over 5 plus 1 over 5, they have the same denominator, so we can just add up the numerators and then keep the denominator the same. So it's going to be 3 plus 1 is 4, and then over 5. And that's our answer. Pretty easy. Subtraction, the same rule applies. Make sure they have the same denominator. In this case, they don't. So you have to balance the fraction so that they both have the same denominator. So 3 and 5 both share 15 as a common multiple. So we're going to have to multiply these two numbers by 5. So 3 can be 15. And these two numbers by 3. So 5 can be 15. And then we get 10 over 15 minus 9 over 15. So same concept as before, only subtract the numerators. Our answer is just going to be 1 over 15. Now, multiplying fractions is a pretty simple concept because this time you just multiply straight across, both the numerator and denominator. So 12 times 4 is 48, and then 5 times 3 is 15. But we can actually reduce this because both 48 and 15 can be divided by 3. And if we do so, we get that 48 divided by 3 is 16, and then 15 divided by 3 is 5. And I think this is also a good chance for me to go over mixed numbers, which might be another thing you may have forgotten. So you see how the numerator is larger than the denominator. We can see how many times the denominator goes into the numerator, and we can rewrite that number outside the fraction next to it in order to get like a cleaner, more easier to see number. So 5 goes into 16 3 times because 5 times 3 is 15. So we're going to write the 3. And then 16 minus 15 would be 1. So we're left with 1/5. And that would be our final answer. Likewise with division, it's the same concept, but you can't really just divide straight across. You have to actually rewrite it so that we're multiplying. How can we do that with fractions? You simply take the divisor and multiply it by the reciprocal, which is just a flipped fraction. So this is the same as 2 over 3 times 4 over 3, because we flipped this fraction. Now we just multiply straight across, and we get 2 times 4 is 8, and then 3 times 3 is 9. No rewriting necessary. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. I do think it's important to revisit how to do basic math once in a while with no calculator. Some tests still make you do them without using a calculator, like some sections on the AP Calc exam or the SAT math section, but I'm pretty sure they're making that easier now because you guys are bad. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this video and have a nice day.